that there. Got my one eye on the chat, one eye on the screen. So yeah, we're about 30 seconds before start, so I'll do a slow introduction. This is my talk, Intro to AI. I also call it AI. What? Why? How? So for the Metaverse conference, I thought this might be an interesting talk to talk about some of the smattering of offerings that Microsoft has to offer in the area of AI for as a developer, some of the things that you can do to start building some of the components that help, to contribute to the metaverse. So let's go ahead and get into it. So a little bit about me. My name is Dave Patrick. You can find me on most of the socials at David E. Patrick. So what is X nowadays, which used to be Twitter, which I saw on the news this morning. They might start charging us a couple of bucks to use it. So if that's the case, I'm out of there. I'm a big freebie guy. I like swag. I like prizes and stuff like that. I've been a Microsoft certified trainer since 2001, a Microsoft certified developer, certified solutions expert. I'm also, I think, a 7-time MVP, so that's exciting, doing these kind of community talks. Microsoft likes to award folks like me and gives us the MVP award. I've got a certification I call MCP DEAD. It stands for Microsoft Certified Professional Developer, Enterprise Application Developer. I'm particularly proud of that one. That was back in the Visual Basic 6 days, and I think someone at Microsoft was trying to punk me by coming up with an acronym that I might be ashamed to wear, but I wear it loud and proud. So find out more information about me on LinkedIn, David E. Patrick. More information about the company I work for, Data Systems Analyst. We're a Department of Defense contractor over in the U.S., and we're always looking for U.S. citizens to come join our party that we're having here. And I also run a user group, Mad SharePoint. So we've been around since 2012, and as you might guess, SharePoint is a big part of the stuff that I do, and sometimes we're mad about it, sometimes we're mad at it. Officially, it stands for Mid-Atlantic Developers, but secretly, SharePoint can be exciting at times. All right, so let's get into it. What is the agenda of today's talk? Really just 3 big takeaways. Understand a little bit about what is AI, artificial intelligence, why you'd want to use it, and then how I would use it specifically from the Microsoft stack. So this is my favorite, especially for the folks like me. I've been doing this for over 30 years. This is Scooby-Doo. And if you ever watched the Scooby-Doo cartoons, they were famously uncovering the true identity of some of the villains. So here, the true identity of AI is unmasked, and we find out that it's just a bunch of if-then-else statements. So I say that with my tongue in cheek. It's partially true, right? It's very much more complex than that, but at the heart of it, it's making decisions. So really, what is AI? AI, from Microsoft's definition here, is the capability of a computer to pretend to be intelligent human behavior, right? So AI can do things like analyze images, comprehend speech, and then interact in other natural ways, like making predictions about data. If we take a look down a little deeper, then we can look at machine learning. That's a subset of AI. That's things like where a machine gets better at what it's doing because we feed it more data. We do training of of the AI, and we say, hey, look, based on this data, we've had these outcomes. So now get better, fine tune your algorithms based on the data we give you. And then further down the rabbit hole, we have deep learning. So that's where the machine says, you know what? I'm starting to figure this out. I'm using neural networks, and now I can train myself. So that's real Terminator type stuff. But they're all out there. I teach part-time at the University of Maryland, and I've got some students working on some really exciting stuff in these areas. So it's really an exciting time to be alive with some of the things that we're doing. These are some of the concepts that you need to be aware of if you're working in the AI space. Algorithm, again, sort of one of the fundamental things that makes AI possible, that sequence of calculations and rules to analyze a set of data or solve a problem. Machine learning, again, that specific technique that uses those mathematical algorithms to create those models that help make predictions. And then that deep learning, where it's that special type of machine learning that you can just say, hey, go get better all on your own. I don't have to train you. I don't have to be, so it basically scales out what machine learning can do. All right, so if you've been on any of the Microsoft sites, any of the Microsoft material, the era of AI is now. They've embraced this fully. They're treating this like when the Windows 95 came out and PCs were, it's sort of a shift in the way of doing things. ChatGPT just took off and got super popular in over a couple of months. So Microsoft has decided to take AI and bake it in every part of their offerings, every area of the services that they offer. And why do they do this? Well, it helps to reduce some of these tasks that no one wants to do. And I'm a big, I got to write an email to someone. I can use AI to help me generate that. I want to prepare a meeting summary. I can use AI to go through the transcript and automatically give me some bullet points. So I can focus on what the important stuff is. You can also point AI at different problems. You can point it at like security and look at, hey, is someone trying to access my website from an IP address that maybe they shouldn't have been? Look at some of these patterns and see what doesn't make sense, see what smells funny. So AI is getting better and better at doing that kind of thing. It helps make the end users, the workers, more productive. Again, you're not spending time having to focus on what image goes with this slide. You can generate PowerPoints, you can generate designs. We'll look at Microsoft Designer in a little bit. And you can use different languages for, it's not all English. So there's all sorts of other languages that you can use to communicate with AI. And actually down here, the languages they're talking about is in GitHub Copilot. So different programming languages. As a developer, AI can generate JavaScript code for me, Python, all sorts of other languages. And we'll see a demo of some of them. I do have a lot of little demos that we're going to go through here. Answers to your most challenging questions. So with Power BI, one of the great things I love about AI baked into Power BI is that it helps you to generate your DAX expressions. If anyone's done any SQL and then they've tried to do DAX, I feel like DAX is SQL upside down. And so I'll show you later how we can get AI to help us do that. So a little bit of marketing. This is from Microsoft. They talk about how AI, it's not just Microsoft, it's everywhere. Everyone has really doubled their investment in the last year. The research on AI fairness. So people have been, for the most part, concerned about making sure that AI is transparent and doesn't have any bias. And so that research has increased 5 times. And at least half of all the big organizations are using AI somewhat. So maybe they're not in with both feet, but everyone's looking at it and everyone's trying it out. And so here's some examples. You've got folks like Ernst & Young, where they reported that in one of their case studies that they saved over 250,000 man hours of manual work using AI to automate processes and to improve certain processes to make them more efficient. There's PepsiCo that got a training model into a production environment that helped get their product to market faster. And then Progressive Insurance, $10 million savings with their AI chatbots. I laugh at that one because whenever I used to work for an insurance industry, and whenever we had savings, that meant we laid people off. We could replace people. But I'm sure at Progressive, those folks are doing other work that, it's less mundane and more relevant to their tasks, and that the savings was, from them doing more efficient work. All right, so AI is part of the Microsoft platform, right? We're really talking about Microsoft took this investment in AI and they've baked it into everywhere in their platform. So if you look at the Microsoft portfolio, you've got things like Microsoft 365, Dynamics, the browser, Edge, Bing, Windows, even Xbox. The audience here is sort of the business users, right? The citizen or power developers. All these products are sort of the software as a service from the cloud, and Microsoft has made AI part of each. And I'll show you how this was done in each one of these in a little bit. We'll actually do a little demo of creating a chatbot and virtual agents. And I mentioned the DAX in Power BI gets generated, and how Power Apps can use AI, and Power Automate can use AI to generate workflows. So, but in addition to the AI templates that they've made available, so it's really easy to use, Microsoft has also made the foundation, the services available. So you can really write your own applications and call directly some of these Azure-based AI services like Cognitive Search or the bot service or the form recognizer, and use them in your own application. So you don't have to just sort of use the plug and play stuff. You can actually write your own code and make your own. I saw a demonstration this morning that you could have your own ChatGPT if you wanted to, using some of the AI services that are available. So again, the benefit of using Azure AI is it's accessible from any environment, and it really doesn't matter if you're low code or no code or you're deep code, any skill, any data environment. Repeatable, reusable code. and it's based on Microsoft's research and their trusted platform. So it's very secure, and they've made many promises and assurances that it'll be ethical. So they talk a little bit about, what does accessible AI even mean? You can get it from on premises, you can get it in the cloud, you can do it for any level of machine learning experience, and really from so many different platforms. It's feasible to say any platform. It's open, portable standards. All right, so based on all this, about a year or so ago, I said, all right, great, I'm gonna dive into this. Let me see what AI services are about there. And the first thing I read up on was QnA Maker and Willis. So QnA Maker, question and answer maker for chatbots, and Willis, language understanding service for working with the QnA Maker. So, and the documentation's out there. I love Microsoft Learn. Microsoft Learn is way more than documentation. We'll talk more about Microsoft Learn later, but you'll see a lot of my slides reference different articles from Microsoft Learn. And there's this great one from QnA Maker that talks about, what is QnA Maker? It's a cloud-based natural language processor. It allows us to create natural conversation layer over my data. So I can specifically, Microsoft likes to use the word grounding their data, meaning or you're writing your AI services in your own data. When you ground it in your data, because right now ChatGPT, it's like stuck on like 2021 and before. So if you want more relevant information, more relevant answers, you can ground your own data. And QnA Maker was a way to do that. And Willis, in addition to that, was the other piece of that. It's a cloud-based conversational AI service that allows you to apply custom machine learning intelligence to a user's conversation, allow you to do things like figure out a user's intent, right? So Willis says, hey, what are they asking me, right? They're trying to find a location based on some utterance that they made. Here's the utterance. How do I get to the human resources building on the Seattle North campus? So I know, hey, they're trying to find a location. And I can use Willis to figure that out. And then I can use QnA Maker to say, all right, since they asked me that question, let's generate a response. Sounds great. I'm in love with this. It sounds like it's really easy to get started. So I go to the quick start and start working the example, and I see this big old red blurb that says, you know what? Psych, we changed our mind. This is the old technology. We're going to move you to something new. And sure enough, when I looked at Willis, same kind of thing, maybe not as red, but it also is being deprecated, as Microsoft likes to say. And I've been doing Microsoft stuff a long, long time. I'm a big fan of Microsoft, but they have done this to me before, most notably Silverlight. I don't know if any of the folks out in the audience have used Silverlight, but that was supposed to be the next best thing when it came out, and I got Silverlight certified, and then it was no more. And so this happens. That's okay. I was a little upset and surprised to find out that QnA Maker and Willis are not the way to go after spending a little bit of time on it. But I've gotten over it. I'm moving on. I'm happy to say that there is a path, if you've spent time working with QnA Maker and Willis, to migrate from that to the new offerings that they have. So there's a great article on Microsoft Learn on how to take what you've started with and migrate. And so what is the new offerings? Not offerings, as your cognitive service, excuse me. This is what you can do for responsible use of AI to get started with creating languages and using those languages to generate responses. So what is it? Again, it's this natural. It sounds very similar to what Willis and QnA Maker was. Natural language processing features for understanding and analyzing your text, and it can be called from any web-based language. So REST APIs, client libraries, JavaScript, all that good stuff. This is what it looks like. You go over to language.cognitive.azure.com, and you're in the language studio. So you can go in here and you can generate code to do, or services to answer questions. There's custom question generating. Notice this is the next generation of QnA Maker, so this is the new version. There you can create a language to support that. Again, the next generation of Willis. So this is really where you want to be if you want to start creating those kind of solutions, these kind of bots, if you will. So let's take a look at that. What does that look like? Well, how do you do that? And again, I'm going to use there's a quick start in Microsoft Learn. Like I mentioned, Microsoft Learn way more than documentation. They have these 5-minute tutorials, these quick starts. They have hands-on labs. They have Azure sandboxes where you can do Azure type stuff without using any credit or paying any money. I mentioned I'm a big freebie guy. So this is a wonderful resource if you haven't seen this. So here's my demo. And basically I went to the quick start tutorial and I'll walk through it step by step just to show everyone how easy it is to perform one of these. This is like a 5-minute demo. So it does require you to have an Azure subscription. You can sign up for a free trial for like 30 days. You get $200 in credit. There's also a free tier in Azure. So you'll see there's a free tier in here that I could use even if I run out of credit. So I'm in the Language Studio, and the first thing it says is you got to create a language resource. So and when I do that, I got to tell it which subscription it's going to use, what resource groups it's going to live in, what data center it's going to live on, and what pricing tier I'm going to associate that with. So I'll go ahead and I'll go into the Language Studio, and I see some of the things I can create. Now, sorry, let me pop over to the regular Azure portal so I can create that language to support the template I'm about to create. So we'll go over here and we'll go pop open a tab in Azure. And we're just going to run the sign in real quick. And I'm using, by the way, a M365 developer tenant, which you can get for free. And I'll talk more about that in a minute. So I'll go ahead and create a language resource. So just create a resource, search for language service, and provision that. So if you've never used Azure before, the way it works is there's all sorts of services you can provision. This particular one lets me do things like sentiment analysis, key phrase extraction, question answering, named entity recognition, summarization for text, all sorts of great stuff. And there's some custom features I could check off if I want to. They have a little other requirements. So I picked my subscription. I think I'm using an Azure one. I mentioned I teach at the University of Maryland. This is one of the Azure for Students subscriptions that I make my students use, again, so they don't have to pay any money. I pick a resource group. Whenever you create a resource, it gets grouped in a resource group to make it easier to manage. I give it a data center, the East US. I give it a name. I pick a pricing tier. One of the pricing tiers, I've already used my free one. Otherwise, that would have showed up. So now this one I got to pay for. You're only allowed one free pricing tier per user group. It's checking some of my information. I think I left something blank under the basics tab. So I know, forgot to agree to the end user license agreement. You got to make sure that all that legal jumbo, my firstborn child will be yours. And so I checked that box. Now everything's looking good, and I can go ahead and provision this language resource so that I can use it in my bot. So once I do that, I go ahead and create it. And it takes a second or two to create it in the cloud. So cloud computing, it's out there available for me to use. It's got all the information associated with it when it was started to be provisioned. This is sort of the overview of the resource, and once it finishes deploying, you'll see more information. So I think I jumped over and came back just to see the particular resource and see the details of it. There's the other one. I had two. I had a depth demo and a Lewis demo. Lewis demo was one on the free pricing tier, right? So that's the one that if I use that one, it doesn't cost me any credits. But the new one will actually use credits. So or if you don't have a trial, you actually would pay money to use your resource. That's how Azure Cloud Computing works. It's like an Uber. You pay for what you use. So in the quick start, you have to supply data for whatever bot you're going to create. So, but luckily they give you a sample bot or sample template to use. This one is designed to analyze email, and then based on the email or commands related to an email, you can do things like flag the email or delete the email or cancel the email. So it's already got a data set that I can use to train this bot. It's already got some of the configuration information to set this bot up. So I used that sample project file. You can create your own, and you can use that template to understand the setup. These are some of the other things I could do with extracting information, classifying text, figuring out sentiment. Is this do they say something good about me, or are they saying something bad about me? Understanding questions. So that's the one we chose. We're going to go ahead and understand questions about email. I'm going to go ahead and paste the project that they gave me from the Quick Start into the Language Studio project. So we'll go ahead and just find it. I think I downloaded it on my downloads or wherever I put it. There it is, the email app demo. So I'll go ahead and give it a name. Import that in. And then once that's in there, I can deploy it. And you can see some of the intents, add flag, cancel email, confirm, delete, that are associate it with the utterances that people might make. So someone might say, book me a flight to Rio next week. And I'll say, oh, that's book flight. Or cancel this email. Well, that's cancel. Or delete this email, or remove this email is delete this email. So, you can even see there's different language. There's German. So flag hinzufügen. I'm sure I murdered that. But that would mean add the flag. So you can specify in utterances in multiple different languages and map them to the same intent so that the AI will do the same, in this case, add flag, no matter if they asked in English or in German. So, and there's some of the other things you can do with editing existing intents, adding them, moving them to different utterances, removing them, whatever you need to do in this language studio, you can make those changes. It's a very no-code, low-code experience, again, directed at some of those power developer, citizen developers. One question, I gave this talk yesterday, and one question I got was, so do we not need developers anymore? And I would say, no, you still need developers. This is still pretty heavy, techie stuff, even though we're not writing code like we used to. I don't think we're going anywhere, developers, that is. All right, so the next thing is to train our model. So we need our schema. Luckily, we used a project that already had the utterances and the intents defined for us. If we had any entities that are associated with our model, we might specify things like email, basically the nouns, emails, persons. So any of the objects that might that are book, create an email. Email would be the entity in that utterance. Create is the verb. So the entities, the utterances, the intents, they're all defined in our project. And then once we have that project deployed, we can train it on the data that we supplied to it. And when you train your model, typically you split your data set into an 80%, 20% split. And the reason you do that is you say, you know what, 80% of my data, these are the utterances and these are the intents that map to them. And then the model can go ahead and figure out which AI model makes the most sense. And I'll use standard training, which unfortunately only allows you to do English. But if you do the advanced training, you can do other languages, but it costs more money. Have to use more of my credits. But there you can see the split, 80-20. That's pretty much an industry standard. So it uses that other 20% of the data to validate the model that it came up with. Right? It'll use 80% of your data to say, hey, I think this is how this should work. And the other 20% to say, yep, we got it right. So we'll go ahead and do that. We'll do the training model, and it'll go out and train for a little bit. It's just going through, it's explaining some of the things that, how you would do that, how it gets deployed. And then once the training's done, you deploy your whole model so it's available for use. And that's what we need to do here. Let me just fast forward this a little bit. There we go. So there's our training job. I submitted it. The training is complete. There's the details of the training, Bob. And then as I go through here, the next step is deployment. So we add the deployment. And we say, hey, let's go deploy this model and make it available for use. Go add it. Oh, still, the training hasn't complete yet. I can't deploy it until the training is complete. So again, let me fast forward just a little bit. There we go. It's complete. Now we should be able to deploy it. Refresh my screen to pick up on the fact that the training is complete. Now I can add that deployment, give it a name. Pick the model to associate with this deployment and deploy. And this is not a very big model, so it's not going to take very long to deploy. Just about a minute to go out there and be deployed into the Azure Cloud Computing. Now we can test it. So there's a nice little testing harness here that allows us to say, hey, go grab that service that I just trained and deployed, and now let me see if it works or not. Let me go ahead and give it some utterances, like delete this email, and see if it actually, its intent is recognized properly, right? And if not, I'm gonna have to go maybe tweak the amount of training. Maybe instead of 80-20, I do 50-50 or 100% zero. I don't know. So I'll go ahead, I'm selecting what's been deployed, and I'm trying my own utterance, delete this email. And this one's a pretty easy one because it was one of the ones in my training model. So that's when I run this, it's actually going to say, it's almost 100% that this is delete this email. So we run the test. It comes back 96.76% sure that this is to delete the email. I'm surprised it's not 100%. Didn't actually get any entities, but it knows the intent to do a delete of emails. Let's try remove. That's a little bit different. I'm not sure that was in my model. So 89%. So still, it kind of knew that it means delete. How about erase? Erase. Do you think that would be higher or lower? Well, I think it's a little higher, actually. Let's find out. Looks like it's around about this. Oh, no, it's around the test. There we go. 93% confidence. So now I got crazy and said, let's try garbage this email. Let's see if it really, And so it actually switched. It recognized that as a cancel. So I guess you're in the middle of writing an email and you cancel it. And that's what it figured garbage means. And then destroy this email, again, 94% you mean delete this email. Or no, that's actually a cancel too. That's interesting. How about blow up? I was really trying to break it. 88% cancel. So those last three all got recognized as a cancel and not a delete. Only the first ones, the remove, the delete, and all those actually returned in a proper intent. So it's an interesting model or I lost my screen. Let me zoom ahead to where I was. It's an interesting demo to try out and get your hands, kind of hands-on with. And what happens is, as you walk through the quick start, I really think I'm a big believer in learning by doing. I think you really understand. You start, and all these sort of abstract concepts come together when you walk through and try it out and do it for yourself. So in that vein, I have a second demo. This one is to demonstrate Power Virtual Agents and creating your first your chatbot, right? This one is a little more geared towards the citizen developer, so even easier than the previous one. This exercise walks you through, and I've got a link to the exercise in my slides, building your first chatbot using Power Virtual Agents in Microsoft Teams. So really, they say even my kid could do it, but my kid does so much more than I can do, so that's not really an accurate statement. But here I am in Teams, and I'm saying, hey, I want to build. I clicked on Power Virtual Agents over there on the left side, and I'm going to go ahead and create a chatbot. So I pick a team for the chatbot to live in. It's going to provision the things that it needs to run the chatbot, some of the AI services behind the scenes, automatically for me. And then inside the chatbot, I can use the chatbot studio to graphically create a workflow, or I shouldn't say workflow, but the flow of the chatbot. Hey, you got a message from somebody. Now what do I do about it, type of thing. So I'll go ahead and give this chatbot a name. And we'll call this one what's the weather? So this is chatbot. If someone's asking about what the weather is, I'll tell it it's going to just keep it simple. I'll speak English. Go ahead and create that one. You'll see it's saying, so it's secretly provisioning all the AI components in the cloud that it needs to support. The model and all that stuff. Now we're still going to have to train the model, so we'll still have to give it some utterances and then tell it, oh, this utterance means this topic. So when we build chatbots in Power Virtual Agents, we have things called topics. So we can so when we train our chatbot, we give it utterances, but now they get mapped to things called topics, and there's still entities and things like that. So here we are. You can see. I can go to the topics and start adding my own topics. I can edit existing topics. If I've already got my chatbot created, I can test it or edit the existing one. So we'll go ahead and open our chatbot that we created in there, the What's the Weather chatbot, and we're going to go to the topics and see what exists. They give you by default some sort of templates you can use. So there's a topic on if the hour, like store hours. When are you open? There's one for location. There's one for what products I should use. So there's some of the trigger phrases with each of the built-in topics, and you can see gives you an idea of the kind of trigger phrases that you might need to supply if you create your own custom topics. So I'm looking at one of the built-in ones. It's got 4 trigger phrases all about hours. The default message said the chatbot's going to say, "Hey, I'm happy to help you with hours," and then it spits out a list of the actual store hours. So let's try that out. So we'll go ahead and test the bot, and we'll say closed and see if based on those limited trigger phrases it recognizes that I'm asking about hours, and sure enough it does. So then part of the chatbot was to rate the experience, and I thought, well, let me keep asking about hours hours and see what happens. It got a little hung up there. It said, wait a minute, I asked you a question now. The chatbot said, please answer my question before you start asking other things. So it's not 100%. Now it's ready for me to ask another question. So I said, okay, I would like to ask more. I'd like to try asking about hours, but different this time. So this time I said, what's your hours? And again, it was able to recognize what I was talking about and answer that question. So I'm trying to break it, right? I'm trying to think of a way that it won't recognize that yet is still maybe a way it should recognize asking about hours. I think I gave up. I thought the next one I'll break it when I build my own weather bot. So let's go ahead and add some our own custom topic to the weather bot, right? We've got the hours in there, that's fine, but I want to add a new topic. And they did have this bot framework composer that's older now. They've come up with a new one. In fact, even the interface I'm showing you has been improved upon. So this is sort of the classic user interface for building a bot. There's a newer one that's available out there if you try it yourself now. Similar though. It's got the new one does have more features. You can do some advanced things like adding images and stuff like that. But in this one, we're adding phrases. So I'm sitting there, is it cold outside? These are all the trigger phrases. What's the temp? Is it, what do I ask? I think, is it going to rain? So these would all, if anyone asks any questions like these, my bot should recognize that we're not asking about hours anymore, but we're asking about the weather. Should I wear a coat today? Oh, that's a good one. So I added, 5 different trigger phrases. There they all are. Notice I didn't ask about hot at all. So we're going to keep that in the back of our mind. I go ahead and save that. It warns me, you added trigger phrases, but you didn't map to the topic that this trigger phrase should be asking about. You didn't say what this, what's the result. If someone asks these kind of questions, what's the next step? So I got to go fix that, right? I got to go in there. I can even they have this nice topic checker that'll let me know, oh, you didn't add a message. You didn't add a response. Oh, my bad. Let me go in there and add a response. So I'm going to go in there and put, oh, you're asking about the weather. And then what I want to do is ask where they're located. So depending on where they're located, East Coast or West Coast of the United States, maybe I will respond differently, right? So I'm going to change it in the first message, just like they did with the hours. I'm going to say, and kind of recognize what they're asking me. I'm going to say, hey, you're asking about the weather, or you want to know about the weather. And then I'm going to respond with my own question. I'm going to say, where are you? And I'll even give them like a drop-down list they can choose from so that I'm not having to figure out, misspellings and things like that. So we'll come in here and they'll say, we'll say, hey, they're either west or they're east. Again, I oversimplified this. In a real world bot, I'd probably have a call to an API weather service and, allow them to put in a zip code or something like that. But we're keeping it simple. So if they're on the West Coast, I'm just going to say, it's snowing at the time, and if they're on the East Coast, it's sunny. Again, keeping it real simple, but just give you an idea of how this would work. And one of the nice things is when I go and test this bot, you'll see still the UI and how it kind of debugs and walks through each leg of the if-then condition, right? So here I'm going to say over on the East Coast, it's sunny. So once I've got my messages down, I can go ahead and save this. Now it should save successfully. And then I can test it out. So we'll go ahead and say, all right, we like it. Let's go ahead and try it. Now, again, when I test this, watch the right side. You'll see it step by step go through it. I put in a message. So I think I say something like, what's the weather? Real simple. And it goes and recognizes, and says, hey, you're asking this question. So it didn't go to hours. It went to the one I just put. And then when I put west, it moved over to snow, snow, snow. So now I tried how hot is it. See, it said I can't find a related topic. It doesn't think it's hours. It doesn't think it's weather. So I need to do some more training. I need to give it some more trigger phrases. If I ask how cold it is, that was one of the trigger phrases I gave it. So it successfully recognized I'm asking about the weather. And when I said east, it says sunny and breezy. So it is important to give it, what the lessons learned from there, give it the right information to train your models properly, and you'll get really, really good results. All right, enough of those demos. Let's go through some. I've got so many other things I want to talk about. Azure AI, there's a workshop. If you want to dive in deep, really get your hands into this, there's an immersion workshop, and there's a link in this slide that you can click on to go to the immersion workshop. Let me see if I can get it to pop up there, but it's built into my slides. So when you click on them, it takes you to, hands-on labs that you can do to go even more in depth to some of what I just showed you. Another availability from Microsoft is AI Builder. This is aimed at Power Platform. So the AI Builder, again, makes things really easy to create, easy to connect, easy to add to, easy to extend. You can do things in Power Automate and Power Apps like categorize text to figure out, to group things. Hey, these people are talking about the West Coast. These people are talking about the East Coast. You can do form processing. You can look at images and do object detection. Hey, that's a bike in my picture, or that's a flower. You can do entity extraction where you're looking at business data and say they're talking about emails or they're talking about our company. And this is all built into Power Apps. Where you can log into Power Automate, and when you choose one of the templates that uses AI Builder, so I just did a search for all templates that have the word AI in it, it'll automatically hook up to the AI actions for you. So you can see here, there's a template that says, hey, I want to analyze email sentiment. I want to find out if someone sent me an email and they're saying something good about me, or if they're saying something bad about me. And this utilizes AI Builder, and this in particular one will take the email and send the results. Hey, you got a good email. Hey, you got a bad email. And I could maybe make a chart in Power BI. You got 50 bad emails and 100 good emails, that type of thing. So again, it's all no code, low code aimed at those developers to really easily, quickly get started with AI without having to get into all the nitty-gritty details. Another offering from Microsoft is Microsoft Designer, designer.microsoft.com. Go out there, and this is that kind of image generator or infographic generator where you can describe, I want an Instagram post about my cosmetic product that's going to launch on March 1st. And so it goes and grabs an image and comes up with something. And if I don't like it, I can regenerate. Or I could, you might have heard the word prompt engineering. I can do a different prompt to try to get something different. I can add my own images, right? So I can upload my own image and say, do this, but now include this image. So it's a really neat way to help folks be more creative and kind of think outside the box using AI to augment your own thinking. Be careful. I work at the DoD, so Department of Defense, and we really can't use this if we upload images up here. They're out in the public space, so you have to be cognizant when you're using AI of where your data is going. Microsoft's doing a really good job of saying, hey, we're not going to take your data and train other folks on that same data, but just be aware that where you're using it from and the things that you're uploading that they might be leaving your purview if you're using them and they're not sure that they're located inside your firewall per se. All right, so another one, Bing AI. So this is basically ChatGPT built into Bing, where you go into Bing and you can ask questions and hit chat now, and it will respond just like you're using ChatGPT. You can even say, well, what kind of conversation do I want to have? Do I want to have a creative one? I like that. They use the word creative. It means ChatGPT, if you've used it at all, that sometimes it makes things up. It tries to fill in the blanks. I actually told ChatGPT to generate a resume for me based on my LinkedIn profile, and it said that I had a PhD. I do not have a PhD. I wish I did. Thank you, ChatGPT. So it was a little too creative in that sense. And if that's not your cup of tea, you might ask for a more balanced response or even a more precise response. So it won't be as exciting and creative, but it'll be less that you have to maybe proofread. So in this example, they asked for a 3-course menu with no nuts and no seafood, and give us some examples. And they actually responded with some apple crisp with vanilla ice cream, roasted chicken with roasted potatoes, and oh man, I'm getting hungry now reading all this. I know for some of you folks it's 5 o'clock, but for me it's about lunchtime. So this is the wrong demo to do. I like this. The great thing about this built-in with ChatGPT or Bing Chat is it remembers your conversation. So you can say, here, I already have sweet potato. And it was like, oh, here's how to use. So it remembers the previous requirements and then adds the additional information to generate a more precise response. So I tried it out myself. I went out to Bing and I said, which is better, peanut butter or almond butter? And it came back and said, they're both pretty good. Peanut butter has more protein. Almond butter has more fiber. And I said, oh, really? Tell me about that. And it told me that if you want more fiber, it has double that peanut butter. But here's a great example of being creative. It's not really double, it's 1.6 times. So hold on, ChatGPT, hold on, Bing AI. Don't get all excited, get a little cocky there saying it's double. it's 1.6. It's 1.5. You know, it's barely double. So, or it's not double really, but you do have to be. And a great example of this. I love ChatGPT. I love Bing AI, but be careful of the responses you get it to generate. Don't just grab them and then turn around and send them off to whoever. I had a student email me and they said, dear your name, I would need, please give me more time on my assignment, signed the student. And it was like, they didn't even take the time to take out the placeholders and put my name and their name in there. So do a little your due diligence. Make sure you take what the AI generated for you and do a review before you utilize it in your applications. Azure OpenAI service. This is the developer's blanket or front to ChatGPT. So if you want to make your own ChatGPT, or you want to use pre-trained AI models or custom AI models, your own data, you want to ground the AI in your own data, you can use the Azure OpenAI service to program against ChatGPT. So it's got all those powerful access to the language models, built-in machine language, science, intuition for everybody, simple user interface. We saw a little bit when I did the cognitive services demo. It's really a great tool. Another tool, I'm just going through all these different tools that are out there. Copilot. Now, there's a lot of different copilots, but one of the first ones was GitHub Copilot. Copilots are basically they're built on top of the Azure OpenAI services. So it's Microsoft has taken these Azure OpenAI services and wrapped them into things, and then you've got the GitHub Copilot. You've got the there's one for Word, one for Excel. We'll talk. I'm jumping ahead, but so the GitHub Copilot is your AI pair programmer, and you can see right here what it does. It's actually generating Python code. This is one example of it generating Python code. So I put in a comment here, triple quotes is a multi-line Python comment, and I'm saying validate each address with an API, return a list of valid addresses, and yeah, boom. And then my GitHub Copilot will generate the function to implement the comment, and it does a pretty good job. In fact, let me show you out here on this is my JavaScript, right? And I've got Copilot. Look, Copilot's living over here. Here it is under here, living. It's active at the moment. By the way, it's free for. I think it's supposed to be $10 a month, but if you join the beta, they announced Scott Guthrie, the VP from Microsoft at Microsoft Build in May, announced he had an Oprah moment where he said, if you want it, sign up for the private beta, sign up for the private beta. And that's what I did. And now I have it. So if you want it, you can get it without paying the $10. So here we have, I'm writing some JavaScript code. So I want to create a car object. It's going to have a make. And look, it already says, you've done this before. I've seen you. It's already knows how I've been coding. I've done this example when I teach many, many times, and it knows I usually use like Toyota Camry. I usually give it a year and a model. So I'm just going to tab and accept that, and I'm going to do a couple more. And look, it even says, well, let's switch this one to Honda and make it a different year. So again, I can control tab to accept just pieces of what it's recommending, or I can just tab and accept the whole darn line. We'll do one more. It really does do a good job of kind of knowing the kind of things I want to do. Let's try to trick it. Now I'm going to say cars. Oh, look at that. So it's figured out, because that's plural, you probably want an array to capture those three objects that you just created. So there it is. There's the GitHub Copilot in action, doing its thing, helping me write code, making me way more productive than I used to be when I had to fat finger things and have bugs in my code and forget, I might do something like that. So Copilot really makes it makes me way more productive. Definitely worth the money. As I mentioned, there's Copilots for everyone. So there's Microsoft, and this isn't out yet. There's, I think, like 600 companies got accepted to the advanced preview. So it's coming soon, but we got a little video to show you some of the things you could do in when Microsoft 365 Copilot, the app is available. So this is what it is. We're out there using your own words. You fire up the little icon here for the Copilot app, and you can say, hey, prepare for my upcoming meeting. And it's going to be smart enough to figure out which app it should use to help you. So here it just whipped out some bullet points based on, it's your data in Outlook. You might say, hey, draft a product announcement. And so it says, oh, it sounds like you need a Word doc. So I'm going to go and introduce the product that you just created and some of the subsections of that product, the features of that product. And it's going to go ahead and maybe I don't like it. Maybe I need to adjust. Maybe I need to try again. What if I need to do a presentation? I can say, create a presentation. It's going to generate the PowerPoint, and it's going to pull in images. If I need analysis and tell it to analyze some data, it's going to whip out an Excel spreadsheet and maybe even Power BI to present the data, some charts there. If I want to respond to an email, it'll draft a reply and help me to craft that email much more quicker than I would if I had to do it late. If I joined a meeting late, it can look at the transcript and based on the transcript of a meeting, generate what points have been talked about and what action items may have been issued. So it can do all this stuff. You can ask all sorts of crazy. It's coming soon. You might be thinking, well, this is great, Dave. What's the gotcha? What's the catch? The catch is, fast forward through this. It costs money. And it's when they announced it, they were saying it's going to be $30 per user per month, and there's been a little bit of pushback against that. A lot of folks, I mean, again, it's not out yet, but there has been this kind of question mark: is it worth it? It's we already paying $20 per user per month just for Microsoft 365. Now it's another 30 just for the Copilot. I mean, it is really great, but I'm not sure it's worth 1.5 times what I was already paying. So we'll see what Microsoft's going to do. There's more information here. This is just a summary of what that video talked about. Generating materials from your data, analyzing your data, summarizing your meetings. It's all about looking at your data and being more productive with it. All right, a couple last things as I wrap up here. Power BI, I mentioned earlier, the great thing about Power BI is you can generate your DAX expressions. So you'll see here, if I'm in a Power BI report and I'm trying to come up with a rolling day average, 10-day average, I don't know what the DAX is for that. I guess I could go Google it and figure it out. But now built-in AI will, I can just specify in English what I want, and it'll give me a preview of the result and also give me the DAX expression that I would need to use to implement that particular summary. So this to me is fantastic. I'm not a DAX expert. I do know SQL. I've been doing SQL for a long time, but DAX just perplexes me. So being able to generate my own DAX in line in Power BI when I need it is a really big plus for me. That might be worth the $30. Power Automate, Power Apps. Again, you can create your own cloud flows just by describing it in words. So here we say, hey, send me a message on Teams every time a new file is added to SharePoint, and it's going to specify the template I might want to use. So I did it here. I went into Power Apps and I said, I'm going to describe a new one. You can build it manually like you want, but if you say describe it, then again, you give it some words. So here I did, when someone posts a message to Teams, send me an email, and it suggests the trigger and actions that are going to be needed to implement what you just described. When a channel message is added, get my profile from 365 and send an email to that profile. Again, just a way to kind of, otherwise I would have had to choose each one of these, manually, or find a template that kind of matched what I was looking for. This improves my work, speeds my work, makes me much more productive. All right, to wrap up, all this stuff is found on Microsoft Learn. You should definitely check it out. It helps you to become there's exam crams, exam certification, exam prep, all found for free on Microsoft Learn. I'm a big fan of it. If you want to get started with Power Apps, there's a Power Apps community plan, which you can use usually in conjunction with your work, so that you have your own space, but still in your work tenant. So it talks about being able to do like Dataverse and the AI Power Apps and some of the AI stuff that we talked about. And this is, you sign up for it. There's also the 365 developer program. This is if you want your own tenant, and you get it free for 90 days. It's renewable as long as you use it. And all you have to do is really check the email or log in once in a while. And I've had one for 8 years. You can load it with sample data packs. You can get access to help from Microsoft. Can actually make your own recommendations. It's not for production. It is for exam prep, learning, training, and I think it's a fantastic free resource. Microsoft also runs all these other offers. There's a 30 days to learn it offer, and my links are embedded in my slides, where you can perform some of the modules from Microsoft Learn, and you might qualify for a 50% off exam. There's that's where they talk about the 50% off. depending if you complete the challenge within the 30 days since you started. There's lots of other resources. So I just threw a bunch of up here: the free Principles of Data Science book, the Zero to Hero, GitHub samples, more links to Microsoft Learn. I just added this one. A couple people said, well, with my company, we have an enterprise agreement with Microsoft. If you do, you may have this resource and not know about it. It's called the Enterprise Skills Initiative, esi.microsoft.com. Go to it, log on with your work account. And so I logged on with my DoD account, and you get access to free virtual training days. You get access to free exam practice tests and discounts on exams. I think currently it's a 50% discount on all exams, all because my company, the Department of Defense, has a contract, enterprise license agreement with Microsoft, and this is part of that. So again, if you're working for a larger company, try it out. Just go to the website, log in with your work email, and see if this might be available to you. Doesn't hurt to try and check it out. All right, that's everything I have, Luke. Thanks, everyone. I didn't see any questions in the chat. Were there any lingering about?
No questions have come in. So as told the previous ones, that suggests that you've answered everyone's questions already. Too informative. Love the stuff around Power Virtual Agents, because it's stuff that I've really wanted to play with for some time. Just haven't had the chance yet. Is there any other emerging questions for David before we finalize his session? I'm getting reactions, but I'm not getting questions. So we'll take that as, oh, there we go. More of a compliment than a question. Great session from Christine. Lovely stuff. Okay. Thank you again, David. Really good session. Appreciate you joining for this one, and look forward to hearing more from you soon.
Thanks.